And we're back. No, we're starting. The Art of Dreaming with your host, Michael Hemmingson, on Revolution Radio. I'm the host who asked the question, does Bigfoot find us to be ugly, hairless, smelly beings? Does the Loch Ness Monster think we're a myth? Okay, so today I'm not going to have a guest. I've decided that once a month I'll not have a guest, and I'll just yak away and read some things and talk about some things, just to be a talk radio sort of guy. I'm still not adept at just yakking away like some people, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read there's a couple of news things, and then I'm going to read it from read and discuss a document called the Heather Material, which came out all over the internet about 2 years ago. Allegedly a confession from an insider who was working in a top secret government facility that was doing clone research and creating the super soldiers. Since I've interviewed two super soldiers already on this show, James Rink and Anya Briggs, it'll be fitting along those lines. And then after that, I'm going to read a science fiction short story of mine that's fitting with the theme of the show, and the story is called The Dreamer. It's part of a collection of stories that's coming out soon from Wildside Press called The Chronotope. Several people have told me I haven't been promoting my own work enough, and I suppose I should. I am a writer, a professional writer, journalist. I do make my living out of it. I've been making a living, I don't know, anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 a year, if that's a living. I mean, I live out in California and I live in 3 different cities, but I managed to do. I've been since 1999. Of course, I was a journalist, professional journalist before. Anyway, I am going to read that story because I also want to do. I might test it out tonight. Where there's an opening. I was thinking about maybe doing a late night show called Wharf Pose Late Night Story Hour, Literary Hour, or something, or just read some stuff, or have other writers come on and read. If you have any comments about that, what you think, let me know in the chat room or somewhere else. Looking at the news, everyone's been talking about the zombie cannibal apocalypse wave of people munching on each other, and there's more of that stuff. Well, I thought I was looking at some. Hang on a second. There's more stories coming out about people eating people. For instance, more people eating faces. There's a second story about someone eating a face. Let me pull it up here. Cops. A man bit off large chunk of victim's face. This isn't the one that happened in Florida. This is the second one. From the Zombie Apocalypse News Desk comes word of the arrest of a Louisiana man who bit off a chunk of face of a victim whom he allegedly battered during a bloody attack Saturday. According to cops, Carl Yaquine, 42, attacked Ted Cure outside the victim's home in Scott, a city in Lafayette Parish. After punching Couder in the face, Yaquine bit the 48-year-old victim in the face, removing a large amount of flesh, police reported. An arrest warrant affidavit that Yaquine began biting Mr. Cure in the face, removing flesh the size of a quarter below the victim's left eye. A second affidavit accused Yaquine of biting off half his cheek and referenced information that Yaquine had been up for several days on crystal meth. Well, that'll do it. There's been some talk about people being these zombie cannibal guys being high on bath salts. I don't know how that works, but I could certainly say, not that I'm saying this from experience, but just, being around these people in my sordid past, that, an extended crystal meth binge will probably, eventually make you a cannibal of some kind, or doing strange stuff. We have another story here of apparent biting cannibalism. Wig theft suspect bit store owner. A woman accused of stealing a wig from a beauty shop in New Haven, Connecticut, is also accused of biting the store owner as well as police officers who arrested her. Police said Lopel Davis, 38, of New Haven, stole a wig from the Sassy Beauty Supply Shop at 800 Chapel Street. The shop owner told police he saw Davis come into the store with a juvenile girl and then noticed that the wig was missing from a mannequin. He went through the surveillance system and saw Davis take the wig and hide it, as well as several other items in her bag. So he told staff to keep Davis from leaving the shop. It didn't work, and Davis fled with the girl, according to police. The store owner and his 70-year-old father pursued her, and Davis fought back. Police said she punched both men in the face and bit the store owner's bicep, taking a chunk of flesh from his arm and then spit it in his face. When police responded, Davis was, quote-unquote, crazed in front of the Yamo Federal Building, struggling with 4 Federal Protective Service officers, and kicked and swore at the New Haven police. When officers handcuffed Davis, she tried to kick out the window of a police car and was eventually transferred to a windowless prisoner transportation van. Officers were taken to area hospitals to be evaluated for bites and other injuries sustained during the struggle. Now, she sounds like perhaps she was either on bath salts or crystal meth. A lot of these people are acting the way people in the past have during while having had taken PCP. I don't know. Is PCP still out there? Yeah, I wouldn't know that either. And then what else we have here? There was another South Bay. I don't see it now, but there was another story of a cop seeing another guy eating someone, and the guy looked at the cop and spit flesh out and told the cop he wanted to eat the cop or something like that. So what? Oh, here we go. Here's the story. Man threatens to eat cop. Let me pull the story up. This was in Miami. If imitation is the highest form of flattery, then Rudy Eugene, the Miami cannibal who chewed off a homeless man's face while reportedly high on bath salts, has an admirer in his own neighborhood. Brandon Lee Leon, 21, was arrested Saturday after getting into a fight at a local Boston market and resisting arrest, but his threats of wanting to eat a Miami police officer, followed by his attempt to bite the officer, have raised some more concern following the recent act of cannibalism in the Miami area that has made international headlines. CBS News reports told that North Miami Beach Police spotted De Leon arguing with Brian Yurdon, 33, outside the Boston market. The verbal fight reportedly blocked the entrance so no customers could enter or exit, according to police. WTVJ-TV reports that when police tried to break up the fight, De Leon gave them the middle finger, saying, "Runt you," in the process, according to police. De Leon and Yurdon were arrested at the scene, though De Leon was reportedly physically resisting arrest. When he was finally detained by police, De Leon would repeatedly bang his head against the plexiglass of the police car, yelling, "I'm gonna eat you!" at the police officer. Media reports indicate that De Leon's actions reached a level that police deemed it necessary to place the 21-year-old in a bite mask and leg restraints. Doesn't that sound like Hannibal Lecter? Okay, the report said Brandon growled and opened and closed his jaw, slamming his teeth like a wild animal would. Upon being arrested, police would find De Leon to be in possession of rum and a Four Loko. I don't know what that is. When he was transferred to the hospital for blood testing, it was discovered that De Leon was under the influence of Cloud 9, a type of bath salt. CBS News reports that his blood test also showed levels of Xanax and cannabis. Now, yeah, it was the medicinal cannabis, right? combined with Xanax and bath salts. DeLeon said at his bond hearing Monday, "I have no recollection of anything that happened that night." The incident comes in the wake of a horrific incident in which Eugene, reportedly under the influence of bath salts, chewed off the face of a homeless man on the side of Miami Highway. DeLeon has been charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest with violence. He remains in custody on $5,500 bond. Yurden has also been charged with disorderly conduct. Okay, what is going on with this bath salt stuff? To be honest, when I heard, I think it was Sean Morton or something talking, I thought he was joking. Are people, what the bath salts? I thought bath salts were to heighten the vibration of your body when you get into it. I mean, is it like this Venus transit, Palladian, energy, galactic core thing? Is it transforming the bath? I mean, how are they taking this bath salts? I mean, are they sniffing it like, well, of course, obviously I have to research it, but if anyone in the chat room or someone knows how they get high on these bath salts, not that I'm going to try. Well, maybe I will. If I try any of these bath salts, don't come near me because I might want to eat you. And that is not a sexual innuendo. So, here's another thing. Today, science fiction writer Ray Bradbury died. He was fairly old and in bad health for a long time. I know that. I actually met him a couple of times as a young science fiction fanatic. I'm still into science fiction, but not as much. Let's see. Ray Bradbury died in 1991. Author lifted fantasy to literary heights. But I know that for maybe the last 10 years he hasn't been really writing and it wasn't in great health. See, Bradbury died Tuesday night in Los Angeles. His family said in a statement that he had suffered from a long illness. Author of more than 27 novels and story collections, most famously The Martian Chronicles, Fahrenheit 451, Dandelion Wine, and Nothing Wicked This Way Comes, and more than 600 short stories, Bradbury has frequently been credited with elevating the off-maligned reputation of science fiction. Some say he single-handedly helped to move the genre into a realm of literature, which will segue in the second hour when I'm going to read a literary science fiction story that's in my collection, The Chronotope. Many of you probably have read or seen movies based on Bradbury stuff. I mean, of course, The Martian Chronicles is quite famous. The best scene that has always stayed in my mind about The Martian Chronicles is when the Catholic priest or Jesuit, I don't know if he's Catholic or Jesuit, decides he wants to save these indigenous Martians. They're like these floating blobs of jelly or something, and so he feels that the floating blobs of jelly, Martian jelly, need to find Jesus and be saved. And so he's out there preaching the Bible to these Martian jellies as they float by, thinking they're like, these stupid little blobs of stuff. And later on he finds out that these blobs of jelly are actually very highly spiritually advanced beings, and they're kind of amused by his Catholicism, I guess. And of course, Fahrenheit 451, I mean, that was a famous allegorical story about a future of book burning, because books burn at Fahrenheit 451. And of course, it was a commentary on the Nazi book burning era and book burning in America, censorship, banning, information, fascism. Fantastic book, and a good movie too. So I think maybe I'll watch one or read a Bradbury story or something tonight, in honor of this lost giant in the science fiction field. Okay, let's see, what time is it? Okay. What else do we have in the news before we go over to the Heather Chronicles? We have babies could be tested for 3,500 different genetic disorders. Well, I don't want to hear that. Me with a 1-year-old. Well, actually, she's 14 months now. I don't want to hear that stuff. What's going on? Vanity Fair. He doesn't need the people. Anyway, let's move on to the Heather material. You can find the document online. Carrie Cassidy has it up at Project Camelot. She also interviewed someone connected with it. But other places have this document online. It all falls into that James Casbolt, James Rink, Andy McCullen, Anya Briggs, Duncan O'Finio, and sort of genre of these super soldiers and cloning and secret underground bases and black ops operations, and to quote Drake, and that sort of thing. So you're black ops and that sort of thing. I was reading it the other night, and it was so fascinating that I thought I would verbally read it and discuss it. I mean, who has time to sit around and read documents online when you could just tune in to Revolution Radio, and hear a host read it. Oh, to bring that up, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'd like to remind everyone that we are 100% listener supported, and we don't take any pesky ads or grants or stuff like that, to quote Drake again, and stuff like that. This way, no one, can, dictate to us what to talk about, what kind of guests to have or not have on, or what topics. We don't have, commercial breaks every 10 or 15 minutes like some of the places do. And so we are 100% listener supported. If you go to freedomslips.com, or now we have another website, revolution-radio.com, you'll find a donation button that you could donate via PayPal. Any little amount helps. You could sponsor a certain show and host, like me, or Hijacker, or Sean Morton, or Deacon John, or anyone. You could buy banner space, or just make a donation. If you don't use Skype or don't like Skype, PayPal, there's an address there that you could send donations to. There's also products being sold, like this wonderful what are they called? It's in a bullet. It's now I can't even think of the word. Anyway, it's got data on it.
For survival files?
Yeah, the survival. What are those?
The survival documents.
Yeah, but what do you call them when you stick them in the computer? Why can't I think of that?
Oh, jump drive?
Yeah, a thumb drive.
Yeah.
Why my brain was going away on that. So there's that, and there's other things you could purchase if you feel. Anyway, we need your help out there to stay online, and so in case they cut our lines or hack into our system or try to take us down, we have some means of battling the bad guys out there. Okay, so the Heather material. As I was saying, it was a document that showed up online about 2 years ago. You could find it. Just type into your nifty Google search engine the Heather material, and you'll come up with it. But I'm going to read it. One of the reasons why I want to read things is because I read better when I'm looking at reading from a document or something than just talking on the fly. So I'm not constantly going which I'm getting over that. Maybe I need some better public speaking, or I just need more time on the radio. Anyway, the Heather material. So let's start. This person calls herself Heather J.J. Anderson, obviously not a real name, but she says, my name is not important. I believe that if I were to issue my name and rank, the powers that be will hurt my family or friends, as they have stated they would do upon violation of the terms of clearance that was issued. I have worked with some of the greatest scientists, such as Dr. Vivoden, who has proven himself to be an inventor and innovator. He invented hybrid plasma processes for the synthesis of new nanocomposite coatings, advancing coating technologies and Air Force industrial base. He's also responsible for developing new hybrid deposition technologies that increase space reliability requirements. As much as I would love to talk about myself, I feel that I would draw unwanted attention that I am simply concentrating on the matter at hand. I have gone through the archived information and done my best to describe it and cut to the chase, so to speak. The jargon is very confusing at times due to the abbreviations and in some cases equations. So round the information off to the nearest source is the best way to go. But of course, when you read the archived information, you shall see what I mean and hopefully will be able to follow it through to its entirety. I understand that if you are very busy and do not have hundreds of hours to decipher the delicate information at hand, so I believe this will be the best course of action. Furthermore, should anything happen to myself, which is a possibility, then I must ensure that you have the big picture and not just a sample. Should anything happen to me, you have my full express permission to publish all information on me, including my name, the personal information, and other researchers can follow research, but they do not at their own risk. Okay, the first section is called Project Phoenix, and this is like in a diary format. So we had January 2006. They took young, strong subject boys and their teens from all over North America. After the subjects had been drugged and tagged, electronically branded with biological transmitter and 3 coding serials. After the subjects were prepared for surgery, this included placing biologically organic computer components into the subject's body. We took microchips that self-stimulated electromagnetic growth around the codes of the subject's DNA. This was extremely taxing and time-consuming, but it was a necessity so as not to create an autoimmune conflict within the host. After the DNA had been chipped, it was time to augment the vital organs. We placed wired enhancers that were stimulated and powered by the human body's own static, and we have enough static in our bodies to power a locomotive train. So we augmented the heart, the liver, the spleen. Every subject's appendix was removed as a compound designated KTL white that was injected twice a day for 2 months, solved all biological problems. In some cases, kidneys and livers were replaced with better units. We cloned vital organs and special growth hypobaric chambers. Not hard at all, just not professionally ethical. The units had augmented and enhanced biological organs. They were also chipped, but growing them using the host DNA and nanotechnology, these microcells can repair tissue rapidly on contact. They can heal a cut that needs stitches in a matter of hours. But scar tissue is not repairable. Jonathan Carsey was one of the leading surgeons, and he kept a log that I have included in the documentation that you will receive. But he talks of problems surrounding the units. I also saw firsthand the psychological issues the units dealt with. When they were activated, they would often just cry or walk in circles and rock back and forth. The brain could not handle the electrical outputs of the various devices and implants, and it also messed with their motor skills. On paper, these guys were the fastest and strongest humans we have. In theory, they were emotional wrecks with no idea who they were and what they were. This was the start of my turn against the system, as they were all in the age ranges of 17 and 18 years old. They were just babies, young men that were tortured. March 2006. So, we knew the problem and have some positive solutions. We took 4 subjects and attached brain augments there, and they were cutting edge. To us, that is. They required additional electrical input, and we had to have an HEGY cable, homospactic electromagnetic grounding yarn running throughout the body. But we had really run into some issues. The nanometers did their job well, and this made operating extremely difficult. The only solution was partial cryogenics, and we had to freeze portions of the body and specifically targeted areas, such as cutting the fingers and freezing them to slow down the progression of the healing process. These nanometers were not able to reproduce, so there were only so many in one body. How many, I have no idea. So after the brain implants were installed and activated, we ran into more problems. Unlike the other models, to compartment for installed information was made, so all information got uploaded and was fed to one persona. So we had 4 units that had one personality with no safety. So the first time they were activated to test their reflexive responses, they killed 5 people, 2 doctors and 3 soldiers, because these were trials. No safe words or tones or safety protocols were implemented, a very bad mistake that cost us some lives. 3 of the units were terminated during this incident. I can also provide you with the names of the doctors and their families that were told this was a training accident involving radiation leak. Total BS. We do not use any radioactive material other than our MRI machines. They are not magnetic by that way. Extra machines do not use radiation. So the 4th unit was alive, but could not walk due to the processing problems between the brain and the implant. The whole project was a terrible waste of human life and a disaster. But we had received new muscle enhancers that we had tested, so we soldiered on through this trying time. The 4th unit was called Keith. He remembered his name and his past and suffered from bouts of depression and anxiety and was locked into a room for several weeks. I remember him begging for food. This was considered interesting because the units took nutrients into their bloodstream through injections and did not need or could not digest human food like they used to. But an unforeseen side effect was hunger. He did not need the food, but he still had the craving for it, and he felt hungry all. And we're back to The Art of Dreaming with your host, Michael Hemmngson, the guy who asks, does Bigfoot think that we are nothing but ugly, hairless, little creatures that smell like shampoo and bath salts? And if we're taking bath salts, we might even try to eat a Bigfoot. So I've been reading from the Heather materials, a document supposedly written by a scientist who is working in a black ops project to create enhanced human beings. And if it sounds like science fiction, and it does, keep in mind that there's numerous people, some of them who sound plausible and some who don't, like Duncan O'Finian and James Rink and James Caswell, Anya Briggs, Alara Blackwood, I think her name is, or something like that, and numerous others, Aaron McCollum and stuff, who have claimed to have been part of these projects where their bodies were enhanced or messed with, or they were tortured to create different personalities, and the different personalities were trained to be super strong and all this stuff and all that good stuff. So I hope this is as entertaining as I find it, and I'll try to read it a little better. The problem is this document has a lot of typos and grammar errors, so I'm trying to skip those as I come along. So as we last left our scientist down in underground base, Heather J.J. Anderson, she was talking about these teenage boys who had been abducted and their bodies messed with, their organs removed, and having better cloned organs placed in their bodies, and how they, even though they're strong and fast and all that, they also have extreme emotional and mental problems because their brains aren't augmenting to what's going on. Anyway, so we're now part of her journal at July 2006. When I came back, the units were running along better than they had before. We had lost 30% due to automation difficulties, complications during surgery, and suicide. We had one unit that broke his own neck, and 5 other units that observed through this followed suit and terminated themselves. The memories that were supposed to be wiped clean were causing problems because the cranial implants and brain implant, all kinds of problems were occurring, bad dreams and waking dreams, and the most terrifying memories and traumatic were the dreams of birth. It had been said birth is worse than any death you shall experience. After watching some of these units relive this traumatic experience, I'm inclined to agree. December 2006. We received an order stating that the units were going to be deployed in Operation Retaliation in the summer of 2007, and to make sure that they were ready for combat. And we were given a few months to iron out all the kinks in the soldiers. We worked very closely with the units until February 2007, when a man from the Department of Defense came to the facility. We were actually excited to show off the units and their enhancements. We had solved many of the emotional problems using electrical stimulation, but our excitement turned to shock when he gave the order to destroy every unit. A better alternative had recently been authorized. When asked about Operation Retaliation, he was said to have stated, "We have waited this long, a few more years won't hurt." I aided and facilitated the murder of over 600 units. The way these men were herded and culled like cattle should be considered a war crime. And I know I am also responsible, and I deserve to die for my actions. Even the fourth unit was led out of his room and given a lethal overdose of potassium. While the nanometers can repair the organic tissue, they cannot restart the heart. His body was processed much like the others. The powers that be had decided that if they were to spend all this money to create these units, they would profit off their death, and the fallen units were processed and refined into what they passed off as healthy vitamins that contain flaxseed oil and omega-3. Incidentally, omega-3 was the name of this overall project that had many different projects within it, and it was definitely an onion layer. As an aside, Duncan O'Finian has stated that his designation was Omega-197, I believe, and he was part of the Omega units, and that there were hundreds of them, but he claims now there's only like maybe 12 left. I have no idea what the vitamin was called or what company they used to issue this. I imagine it was Merck, as they often use recycled biological waste in their vaccines and have been linked to our operations in the manufacture of biological warfare. We even had sponsors who wanted to try various chemicals on the units to determine effect on live organs. Next section, Operation Retaliation. From what was disclosed to me, this was due to a mock invasion using our own units to overpower and control our military. We have factions of military personnel that know what is going to happen and fight tooth and nail to stop the plans for this new 21st century from taking over. What? For this new? Oh, anyway, including the dying off much of the population of the planet, but not by nuclear war. Of course, 1 or 2 bombs will fly before the war is over, but if you infiltrate the military and cut the cord of some of the troublemakers, then we can get back on track and continue down our unfettered path to global domination. These units were designed to be the best of the best. 1 unit was equal to 10 human units and superior to an inner human being. They could calculate faster, they ran faster, they did not get tired quickly, they jumped higher and longer, they had no need for water or to stay hydrated. and their organics were able to recycle certain waste into a hydration unit at the base of the spinal column. They were going to be turned on the U.S. Army, and then whoever decided not to fall in line, so the possibility of them being turned on the people was very real. But the problem with retaliation was that they did not know themselves until they received the order from a higher power. The documents that you shall see is up to the point and issuing orders to the units. They kill key members of the armed forces, but the rest of the document, over 39 pages, is blank and written in a watermark that says under constructive review. Next section, the Alpha and the Omegas. In September of 2007, we were presented with our future. Omega 13 was the designation of one unit that was our prototype. We had DNA samples from our previous units, and the metal frames were brought in. These grew the human tissues around the frames. Also, we would take a human and remove the spinal cord and place the exactor, and this grew a combination of metal and enhanced bones. A side note, James Casboll has stated that happened to him, but not to his present physical body, but to cloned versions of him that were operated by his psyche. He claims that these clones of his had bones, steel bones made from steel harvested from the rings of Saturn, and apparently superior steel. Anyway, back to Heather. All of our doubts and issues with Project Venus had gone. This was cutting edge space age. Nobody had used equipment like this, and we felt like pioneers in our field, even though we were essentially standing on the shoulders of giants that had already constructed the exoskeletons, and we were simply the assembly crew. We saw that these units had facets of humanity, and their personalities were controllable. They did get confused, but had less issues than the Phoenix units. I've explained that I had a relationship with Unit 01000101, Roger, as his name was, chemical weapons. You could put a 9mm slug in the unit's chest, but the bullet would never breach the exoskeleton to harm the organs. And some of the units were amazing to watch them grow. They would be in a sleep-induced coma as you saw muscle grow in a period of hours over the metallic surface of the exoskeletons. And once again, they could pick up a tank, but that would suffer damage to their tissue. They are not easy to spot, but they are big men. They sweat a waxy substance on command that protects their skin against chemicals or acidic compounds such as VX. The nervous system works independently, so neurotoxins is ineffective, and due to a self-oxygenating chamber in the tank feeding through two gas chambers in the chest, they do not breathe, and they could literally survive in space with no suit as they have internal heat. Side here, this mentioning of their sweat, a waxy substance. I remember a strange guy crossed the border in Tijuana back in 2000. Yeah, it would be 2007, just like this. He was very big American. He looked military, but kind of spaced out, and he asked me some questions, and he was just completely out of it. And he had this waxy material on his neck and arms, like he was sweating. And I was thinking, what the hell is going on here? That's an aside. It reminded me of that. Anyway, back to Heather. This is their biggest problem, as they tend to overheat. And considering each unit contains a smart bomb, then they could very well be the cause of any nuclear attack. We have 29 units in the USA today that have been active since 2008. I have codes to shut down 66 of these units, but by now there are many more, and I just don't know how many. A report that was leaked to our department spoke of these units stopping an alien attack and then being used to enforce the government of the United Countries. Also, these units are multicultural men who could pass for every color and creed. They can also simulate and feign death. These units shall either be the greatest asset to the human race or the biggest nightmare we have brought upon ourselves. As I have stated, I have 15 codes that can be issued as orders for the units to the units that would make them stand down and essentially disable their function. This is a very simple process. The codes can be input through the neurological network that is maintained by a computer network called OAMN, Organic Access Memory Network. You simply attach a flash drive, that's what that bullet is, a flash drive, not a thumb drive. You can attach a flash drive with the codes, place them in each corresponding unit's main drive. You can input these manually into a special clacker that is developed for each unit, but that is time consuming. A decent hacker would be able to do this with entry into the Department of Defense. You can gain access. My personal station log on it is also included. Well, anyway, she includes how to get into the system, and she's got 15 codes of numerous numbers that supposedly will shut down these Omega units with their exoskeletons, nanobots, and bombs. Okay, the next section is Project Ember. She says the following is straight from the log of Dr. Schunger, the man responsible for the rejuvenation of this project. So we're switching voices to Dr. Schunger. May 26, 2006. I have sent my proposal to Zan at the farm. Side note, the farm is what the CIA is usually called, the farm or the company. I have sent my proposal to Zan at the farm and is just waiting to see what becomes of this opportunity that has befallen me. I feel that at times I should be one of the decision makers and not having to wait for a man with no concept or vision to decide my fate. July 7th, 2006. I had a great time during the 4th. I got to see my family for the last time in what I must consider a long while, as I finally got my authorization to start research. My only enemy now is the time that I have left in which to perfect my vision of the future. August 14th, 2006. A very young selection of men and women have been sent my way. I have to wonder, what do I really have to work with, and is this new team that the farm has issued me really live up to my expectations? I do not know. I really do not. But regardless, I will start the trails tomorrow. August 16th, 2006. A hard couple of days for our new students of the game, but a few have really stood out. One in particular has amazing ability, and he knows it. But I and the rest are eager, and I would eliminate one in spite of the entire team. I cannot let one ambition cloud my own. October 12th, 2006. We are really making headway, and I should start some of the field experiments that I promised the farm I would. I must take caution, though. Some of the recruits are restless with the mundane text and want to stretch their legs. Oh, the mundane test and the want to stretch their legs. Still, we must be cautious if they ever got out. October 28th, 2006. Wonderful! They performed the trials with ease. Fires blazing all over the Midwest. I knew that they would be able to do this task, but I have to wonder, who is the most powerful out of the 45? I must eliminate the Deadwood. January 17th, 2007. Things are becoming tense. Infighting and disruption within our ranks is evident. My theory of implement a pecking order has caused nothing but trouble. Yet I strive to find who is better. I know the farm has told me to stand down the escalating tension. I know what I must do, but at the same time, I cannot. I am compelled to see who is real and who is carrying their own weight in this project. February 18th, 2007. Well, all my questions were answered. I have a first-degree burns on my hand and chest, but yet the fact that my curiosity has been fulfilled negates any pain I might endure. Number 35 is indeed the best pyrotechnic I have witnessed, and last night burned 4 of his own test subjects in a controlled environment. Even after 10 minutes, their bodies were still flammable and shouldering with intense hate make such a fire burn so? April 1st, 2007. Human trials begin today. We are using subjects on the blacklist, and the farm has authorized all means, so I wish to test range using the van. Additional. The trial went very well, 3 marks in as many hours. Another group of spontaneous combustion theories. August 5th, 2007. At last, the farm has seen reason. 35 has been placed back on the active trials. I was going to do it anyway. I cannot let the farm interfere with my current breakthroughs. But as it happens, they have sent 3 remote viewers for the final tests. September 2nd. Tests went very well. We used remote viewers to look at the subject, and the units performed multiple tasks, heating the residual area, heating the object, and ultimately hitting the designated target. September 4th. Number 35 got into an altercation with one of the remote viewers, and we lost him. Now the other 2 have been ordered to take number 35 back to the farm for debriefing. In my last act here, I have let number 35 go. Now he can do what he was meant to do in this world and cause it to burn. I have used my ability to take care of certain members of the farm, and the 2 remaining remote viewers will surely burn in hell as they did in heaven. Let me go back to Heather. This was not all the transcript, but it gave a measure of the lunacy of this project and the person behind it. I do not wish to call him a man because throughout the ranks, Dr. Schunger is a feared man. We have no knowledge of who number 35 is. No names were ever allowed. Only the farm knows, and they do not give out information. Incidentally, on September 3rd, 2007, it was reported that 3 top officials died in an office fire. I also have the investigation files and information at hand. The reason I have knowledge is because of 0100101, aka Roger, has all the information stored. He is the unit that aided me and the downloaded of these disks. Thank God for the human soul and the ghost in the machine. I understand this is taking a while, but a great deal of time to go through. Anyway, it has been posed to me by a doctor of physics that the Twin Towers metal frames could have been heated using this form of pyrokinesis, as they have been working on previous versions of Project Ember since 1954. Furthermore, the idea that once a flame is alit, then it can be manipulated into the destruction of any facility. We must view all significant acts of arson and things that are burned down with caution and apprehension. So basically, she's alluding to perhaps Unit 35 or some of these pyrokinesis soldiers were in the World Trade Center and brought it down. Anyway, I have to let Mr. Murphy, Ben, work on some of the document in separate parts, and then I alone will issue the final report. Side note on that, Ben, Kerry Cassidy does have an interview with this guy. You want to check it out, and he apparently verifies this person's report. Ben speaks over 5 languages fluently. He knows many martial arts, but only claims to know one. Perhaps his martial knowledge is vast. He also believes in what he is doing, and his wife, Kenya, mentions that his dreams are of military operations in Burma. And in 1994, he and an officer killed a child in front of him and burned his whole command crew. He talks in his sleep. I have also witnessed this. He suffers from nightmares, especially about Egyptian dreams of the god Anubis. Now I have heard back during Generation 3 trials, they implanted icons to control their subjects. As the G2s were not very controllable, the whole alternate thing works very well, but is prone to unreliability. Princess Diana's chauffeur was one of the G2s. That's also been alluded to, that Princess Diana's chauffeur was mind controlled to cause the car crash. His experience of contact is real. I've experienced the beings themselves, and these are like nothing I've ever seen or experienced in my life, yet so much over the course of my life is nothing should be. And the very existence of these quote-unquote people gives me great hope for our future and helps to reaffirm that I have done the right thing, and my abilities can be put to a much more productive means. Next section, Project Damocles. Now, I worked on a sister project called Trident. I have been told that Project Celia is another offshoot of this nightmarish program. The Damocles project involves taking a human being and walking through a dimensional jump gate. Now, we can already do this, and we have had jump gates to Mars and around the planet. But where we now wanted to go was a place that cannot exist in real time. Side note, people like Andy Basiago and Laura Eisenhower, Stuart Swerdlow, Aaron McCollum have all, and other people, even Preston Nick. You don't need to wait for us because we are frackin' already here, as Nighthawk, our station owner, says. And he also says, Revolution Radio, 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 radio. Okay, back to the Heather material. Almost done, I think. Yeah. Okay, so Project Damocles. She says, now I worked on the sister project called Trident. I have been told that Project Scylla is also another offshoot of this nightmarish program. Damocles project involves taking a human being and walking through a dimensional jump gate. It was 8:30 p.m. on Thursday the 10th, July 2008. I had just finished working on Roger and had shut him down for the night. When my supervisor told me that I was to help with an emergency project immediately, no option was given to me, and my ID was removed. I was taken to a floor I've never been on before. I do not know if I went up or down. I was told that I needed to sit in a chair while an armed soldier trained a 9mm pistol on me, and he waited. This room was empty, but just for myself and the soldier. He looked very nervous, and suddenly a man entered the room and observed me. I felt like a drill was entering my head. The man spoke. She has a green light. Stand down. The soldier lowered his weapon, and I was removed from the room, and it stank of pine soil and cinnamon sticks, a very weird combination. I was led to a room where I was told that this would be my living quarters until the end of the project. I was told to get some rest, and I felt very worried, but I did what I was told and slept until 3:33 a.m., when a soldier came into my room and woke me up. I was told to be ready in 5 minutes, so I obeyed. I was led to a hangar where the Stargate was housed. I was told by the people around to observe. They sent a soldier through the gate, and within a split second, the soldier emerged. His body was engulfed in smoke and ash, and he was being dragged as he disintegrated by two. He was being dragged by two very large beings that had apparent scales. One was dark green, and one was black and red, and both were at least 7 to 8 feet tall. Obviously, what she's describing are the reptilians. Blah, 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 reptilians. Their eyes were a beautiful yellow color, yet the feeling of dread that washed over me is a feeling I shall never forget. Another soldier stepped forward wearing a hazmat suit, and the same thing happened. He was burned into dust, only slower and more painful. It was apparent that these soldiers were not doing this by their own will. No man would ever volunteer for this. And I wake up at night hearing their screams often. They continued with the HEM suits, but to no avail. I also saw a shielded window that had a polarized glass with figures behind them that I could not make out. I smelt the familiar smell of pine sol and cinnamon, but it was interspersed with burnt and charred flesh. It was horrible, and this was not what I signed up to do. But then again, I have done much that breaks any standard of ethics I once held so high. Getting back to my job, I was led back to my room where, upon I was told by a high-ranking member of the staff that I had to help with cryogenics. This was not my field. My field is biochemistry and physics, but as abhorrent, this was again for the second time in my life that I was compelled to stay and help. I worked on a formula with a group of scientists. Our goal was to lower body temperature to a certain state that they could pass into the gate. The problem I found was not the other side, but the pressure and depth of a vibrational frequency, which is the sixth vibration. The human body and materials cannot handle, so they break down. Upon atomized clash with the sixth dimension, the reaction is a superheating of the particles that have just fluxed in and out of our view of reality. So this happens, our own static charge then ignites our bodies into a fiery furnace of death. So we successfully sent a cryogenically frozen human subject through the gate and back with no problems. However, upon revival, he was brain dead, and we lost the subject due to a residual activity within the brain that was still active. The return trip fried his brain. We had to suppress the static and keep the man awake, almost zombified. But then again, they too would suffer the same fate upon the return journey. A side note, if they're zombified, are they also cannibals? Maybe they need bath salts for this. Anyway, so when I spoke to one of my superiors upon the option to use one of our units, he went to the gate and was about to pose the question to the polarized window. But before he could finish, one of these beings, called them reptilian, if you will, that's the word that fits to describe them at best, grabbed my superior and dragged him into the gate. Then threw his charred corpse back into the room, and I felt a severe pain in my skull, and the words, "That is a no," enter my head. I ran back to my room and I broke down. I felt emotionally drained, but one of the beings entered my room and took me back to my workstation. I felt powerless, but for the next few months I worked and worked. More of these reptilian beings were starting to fill the station, and before any of us knew what was happening, the whole place was crawling with these foul-smelling lizard creatures. The fact that we had failed in our task to do the job successfully, more scientists disappeared. It came to a point which work was only to be discussed. I could not talk with anybody else, and I could not communicate with the outside world. Tuesday, September 1st, 2009. What seemed like weeks was months. I cannot recall all of my activities, and I am sure that more went on, but on this day, a huge being walked into my room. He placed his hand out. He was a reptilian. He seemed to smile, but they all look as if they have a grin on their face. It's hard to describe the arrogance. But this particular one spoke to me, and it was not like a drill in my head anymore. It said, "I have watched you from the beginning." I immediately went to my bed and started to look for an object to hit this creature with. Then I felt my fear leave my body. I felt a concern for my own welfare wash over me as if I were in my own third-person dynamic. "They will hurt you if you stay," it said, and then escorted me to a wall. The creature hit a light switch and the doors opened, the doors to a lift. "Get your belongings on the second floor," he said, before pushing me into the lift. As I write this and think back over and over again, I wonder, was this real or a military test? But upon hearing these experiences and seeing what he had in his possession, it's very viable. Also, I met with his friends who also describe what I have seen to the T. She's talking about Ben here. His knowledge of the autonomy and species is just amazing, and the scientist in me would love to gather as much data on them as humanly possible. As the lift door opened, I was greeted by Roger, who had prepared 36 CDs of intel from his own memory block. Most of that is technical aspects of my work upon how these units were made. He gave me back my ID and clearance and told me to leave, so that is what I did. I will always remember the last time I spoke to Roger. I felt very emotional, but I had to leave, and upon leaving this facility, I heard the voice for the last time. "Some of us are here to control this planet, some to enslave it further. Most wish to rule and claim it, but we are here to protect it. What was meant by that is unknown, but something was watching out for me that day. As the coast was unusually clear, I headed straight for my car, and I've never been home since. I felt the intuition to contact Kenya Steplight, one of my friends, and I did so. They have very kindly taken me in right now. The over on YouTube, Ben's story. You can type in YouTube the Heather material, Ben's story, and he talks about, he's the husband of this woman's friend, and he talks about how they protected her, they let her live at their house, but then she later disappeared somewhere. Finally, last section, the Project Elysium. This information is something that was given to me by Roger. You have to understand the benefit of these machines in that they are able to hack and surf any network due to their integrated technology. Unfortunately for the United States, they never took into account that one of these machines might hack their own system. Why? Because Roger was curious. Another unforeseen anomaly to the unit. Elysium is said to be a project on Mars conducted by a group of humans that are working at a facility to call a crucible to awaken a race of beings that are still living in cryosleep, but a much more advanced cryosleep than the thing I have heard of. The goal is to awaken and return the gods of the old Mars to the new world, and the fall of Sarah into the new world, in which they shall call Elysium. If this pertains to the depopulation of the planet, I have no idea. Most of the project is black, and the scriptures are very cryptic and not well read, so we can only make assumptions about the project, and at the time it would be a rash to jump into world-ending theories without being privy to all the facts of the matter. However, the given name itself is rather unsettling. Project Elysium. I also understand that the information delivered to me by an organic robotic person is not the best testimony in the world, and the thought that I was released to tell the world and spread more disinformation has crossed my mind. However, the very fact that I have facilitated and partaken in projects and experiments outside the course of the norm and violated every sanction and code of ethics tells me that this is simply a part of the game that they are playing, and we are the pawns, be it strategically placed or not. We in our chosen professions, not by chance, but by choice, we have made a long time ago. Now we must understand why we made that choice, to quote the Oracle. And that is the gist of the Heather materials. Now, is it made up? Is it real? Is it disinfo? Is it partially real? Certainly a lot of these people in the alternative UFO, super soldier, black ops, whistleblowers have talked about these things, anywhere from these sleeping gods in Mars that they're trying to wake, which of course sounds like I don't know, that movie, couple of Martian movies, or working with the reptilian aliens on various technologies, the reptilians working to kill off 5 billion people on this planet with the banker, Rothschilds, Rockefeller, Bush, Obama cabal. One thing's for sure. It's the military and the CIA, of course, have done a lot of experiments with humans to enhance them, to create the perfect soldier. Whether if it's not as far-fetched as exoskeletons and growing bodies that could that don't die and all that, who knows? But certainly the whole MK Ultra Manchurian Project sort of thing has been around since Project Paperclip, when they brought a lot of those Nazi scientists back to the United States. Many of these Nazi scientists were already experimenting with mind control and creating the ultimate warrior, super soldier types. So if this is interesting, I would suggest that you go do some research on it. There's a reason why I've been interviewing super soldiers, and these people is I've contracted a book with Feral House, a publisher of conspiracy stuff and alternative media stuff. Contracted a book about this phenomenon. I'm taking a sociological stance with it. I have a PhD in cultural anthropology and sociology, and so I'm looking at it from a sociological point of view, with pop culture, media influence, and all that. So that's one of my reasons for my recent interest in that stuff, and who knows when I finish that book. I think I got another 9 months to turn it in. Don't even really have a title. But speaking of books, along with that stuff, I write a lot of fiction, mostly in the literary genre and crime noir genre. Some stuff in the erotic genre, which I was writing a lot of, like 10 or so years ago, because I was making a lot of money off of it, but I really don't now anymore, unless under pen names. But I've always been a big science fiction fan, but every time I've tried to write science fiction, it just doesn't happen. I do have a time travel novel coming out from Tor Books in 2013 called The Man Who Didn't Have Time for Time, which isn't really, it's more fantasy than science fiction. But I do have a collection of science fiction stories. I every now and then write a science fiction story. And so this collection called the Chronotope, it collects a dozen stories that I've written from 1998 till now. It's coming out from Wildside Press. Towards the end of the summer, I think it'll be out, because I'm still working on the other. It's coming out in a double book format. So one side of the book is the collection of stories, which is about 120 pages, and on the other side is going to be a 120-page short novel called Poison from a Dead Sun, which is sort of a serious literary take on Japanese monsters. Sort of like, you got your Japanese kaiju monsters, but in a serious alien invasion time travel sort of story. Anyway, what I want to do now, since I've never really promote my own work, is the next thing I'm going to read is one of the stories from the Chronotope, and it fits with the name of the show, The Art of Dreaming. The story's called The Dreamer, and it's not that long, so hopefully I'm not boring you with my voice, and we'll get to this story called The Dreamer. The third week I was there, the Dreamer, deep in the core of Ganymede, made contact. The Dreamer said to me, "I know what you need." I replied, "No one knows what I need, because I don't know what I need." The Dreamer said, "I know what is destroying your soul, and I can fix that. Please let me help. It is what I do. It is why I was made." I had no idea what the Dreamer was. Alien, machine, spirit, God. I had shipped out to Ganymede Station to conduct sociological research on men and women in confined, cramped quarters and limited personnel space while in space. I applied for the grant and won. This is what I needed at the time to get far away from my old life. Off-planet seemed the best sorts for a woman in pain. Oh, by the way, this is from the point of view of a woman. My previous published books and papers made me a fine candidate for this study. Then I had the dreams of the Dreamer, and with the Dreamer was my dead son. I did not know how this was possible, but I did not care. I held my dead son in my arms, and I whispered, "I love you." The dead son said, "Love you back, Mom." His name was to be David Kelly Green, if he had lived. The Dreamer says, "He does live." I says, only here. The dreamer says, there can be change with a simple thought, a request, a desire, and he will be yours. And I cried. Sally first said what we were all wanted to say. During breakfast, the morning shift, half a dozen men and women ate quietly, deep in thought, and I knew what was going on. I felt the same. I felt the energy in the air, fear and confusion. Sally said, you know, I've been having the strangest dreams all week about this gigantic alien creature with hundreds of tentacles. Everyone stopped eating. Everyone turned and stared at her. Sally said, what? Someone asked, what color is this thing? She said, gray. Someone else asked, where is it from? Sally said, down on the moon, I think. Everyone looked at each other. We didn't have to say it. We'd all been having the same dream. Sally said, it speaks to me. It says its name is the Dreamer, I said. Yes, she said. The Dreamer, everyone else said. The senior officer, Captain Nathan Lee, spoke what we were all thinking. Okay, what the bleep is going on here? The Dreamer, 10,000 feet tall. That is not an exact measurement. It is a guess. It towers into the skies deep below the surface of Ganymede, surrounded by the ancient machinery that keeps it alive in stasis, keeping the enormous body functioning as the entity sleeps and dreams. Its 40 eyes, each the size of a Mack truck, closed. Tens of thousands of tentacles stretch out of its body like filaments of brain tissue, connecting the machinery and rock and a mist that permeates the interior space where the Dreamer rests. Captain Lee gathered both cruise ships, 12 in all, and said, obviously we are dealing with an intelligent something or another, a source, a being, and it's made contact. What I want everyone to do is write down every detail, what was in your dream, what was said, what you saw, and what happened. This way we can compare everything, and maybe we can figure out what the hell is going on and what the Dreamer wants from us. Sally said, what if he doesn't want anything? Every living being wants something, said the captain. He said, or needs. Needs? Indeed, said the captain. The Dreamer spoke to me. Since before your species crawled out of the waters and knew the difference between the soul and the body, I have been here asleep. I have been a prisoner of my own free will, exiled from my philosophy by my own kind, left behind on this dead moon alone, so terribly alone. I have been reaching out to you, and for thousands of years you have not listened. I would give you anything. I touched the spark that made you crawl from the seas. I sent you love, and still you would not listen. Now you are here, Aaron, and you say that you will listen. I will listen, I said. I will listen, and I will dream with you. A bell rings in my room. Come in, I say. The door to my quarters opens. Sally walks in, wearing only shorts. Her breasts are small and white. She does not ask first. She crawls into my bed and holds me. She knows I need this contact. And I know she needed it too. She said, I'm scared, Aaron. I said, don't be. What does it all mean? I'm not sure yet. She kisses me and I kiss her back. She says, do you know what I wanted to be when I was a teenager? When I was 9, when I was 14? I wanted to be a movie star. Isn't that funny? No, I say. And I asked, was that your dream? It was, yes, it was. And when I was 17, I wanted to go on auditions. I started to go out on auditions. I tried to find an agent. I got headshots done. I did some modeling, but the only modeling I could find was taking my clothes off. Your tits are too small, they told me. I refused to get plastic surgery. I wanted to be real, nothing fake, but no one would cast me. No agent would take me on. You don't have what it takes, they said. You don't seem reliable, they said. An agent said, you need training. You need school. The agent said, go see this scout from Rutgers University. So I went to see the scout, this older man, and I auditioned for him, and he said I could get a scholarship to Rutgers if I agreed to live with him as his lover for 6 months. After 6 months, he said, I would have my foot in the mix, and he would find another girl to replace me. He wanted me to be his whore. And I said no. I said I would never sell my body to be an actress. And he said, how the hell do you think any woman becomes a famous actress in this business? He said, everyone is a whore in Hollywood, and if you're afraid to be a whore, you're afraid of success. I fell apart. I cried for weeks. Then I enrolled in the space program. My test scores were amazing. I was told, you can go places with those numbers, young lady. You could go to space. I traded the stars for a different sort of stars. I held her close, feeling and knowing her pain. She continued, but the dreamer says that can all be different, that I could have my first true dream back, that if I forgive myself and all my mistakes, I could be the big actress I wanted to be ever since I was 9. Do you think this is true? I don't know, I said. How could it be possible to erase all my life and have a different life than this one? Would it be real? I don't know, I said. When I was a teenager, I only made love to girls, she told me. And when I went into the program, I only made love to men. I've been wanting to be next to a woman for so long. I had a girlfriend in college, I tell Sally, but I disappointed her. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and she tried to teach me, but I was just too dumb to be a lesbian. We both laughed. She said, I know what you're thinking, Aaron. What? You want to go down there? She said, Ganymede, laughing. Oh, you're a mind reader now, I said. She said, I'll go with you. It's a risk, I said. Of course, she said. We could get in trouble, I said. Of course, she said. If we live, I said. We're in the shuttle pod, Sally and I departing the station and descending toward Ganymede's surface. Captain Lee comes online. What the hell do you two think you're doing? I said, you know the answer, Captain. Come back, now, that's an order. Not in the military, Captain. I'm here to observe. I'm a sociologist. Exactly. You're not even trained to fly in that pod. I'm flying it, sir, Sally said. We have not been cleared for the surface, John. And the captain said helplessly, the captain knows this is futile. We will not abort. Captain, Sully said, you know we have to do this. We're being called. Silence. I wish I was there with you, the captain said. The dreamer said, for those who ask, what does it all mean? The answer is simple. It means everything. Your dreams are my dreams, and together we experience them together. But first, you must forgive. Forgive yourself and forgive others, and float on a cloud of your desires, and then you will have everything you always thought was only possible in another life, not lived. I held my newborn son in my arms and placed my overflowing breast into his mouth so he could feed. I could give him life. I sat down with my child to watch a movie starring Sally Evans. All right, that's a weird story called The Dreamer. Did I hear someone on the line? Maybe not. Let's see, what time is it?